this is Keeper, and welcome back to On Air. I'm so glad you could join me. After being away for a week, On Air is back. You should know we're about to upgrade a lot of the functionality, one that will allow you to get fully engaged in this conversation every day. We're just a few days from those upgrades here for On Air. On Friday, On Air asked the question of our associations, the DSA, the MLMIA, and the DSWA, with 85% of all distributors being women. And as we begin to find more and more direct selling company owners really getting involved in the political conversation in a major way, so much so that it has really thrust us into the limelight, what is your feeling, or can you give a comment about those company owners that are supporting politicians that have stated we are against the entire contraceptive issue, we're for the Blunt Amendment, we are against a woman's right to choose and what happens in their bedroom? What comment do you have on this? Because we feel, as one of the largest women's industries in the world, there has to be some sort of comment coming from our associations. Today, we shared the comments of the MLMIA and the DSWA. Surprisingly, we haven't heard a thing from the DSA, the association that actually has a political action committee. The comments from the MLMIA and DSWA will surprise you. Also, at the end of today's show, I'm going to have a special comment on what it means to step into the lion's den, to step into an area where you know you're going to be fully attacked, where you know you are exposing yourself, where you're fully vulnerable, and knowing that you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Most of our associations don't do that. In fact, I don't know of one that really does that. However, the time is coming where they're going to have to. So that's going to be my special comment. So stay tuned for today's show here on Air.
When my mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Welcome back to On Air. Glad you're back. You know, when I got into direct selling in 1995, almost 17 years ago, one of the first books I picked up was A.L. Williams. Absolutely love A.L. Williams. All you can do is all you can do. Because all you can do is enough. That's the premise of the book. All we can do is all we can do. And know that it is enough. And one of the things that I really liked about the book is he talked about, at one point, really just going forward with what you believe. You really have no idea what's coming, but you know for you internally it's the thing to do. And he also mentioned very early on what it's like to know that you are the most hated person in the insurance industry. Because A.L. Williams, which soon became Primerica, just really turned the insurance industry on its ear. I got to tell you, I'm beginning to feel a little bit like him becoming not one of the most liked people in all of direct selling, because I'm really talking about direct selling's influence on politics. We are finding now that our industry owners have so much political clout, so much political power, and it goes beyond just the what you would think, or just beyond the obvious. I'm voting for these people because it's good for business. That may be true to a degree, and I understand why you would do that. However, whoever we put in office at any level brings more than just the business sense, or more than just the business advantages. They bring everything. They bring their social values, they bring their religious values, they bring their moral values, they bring their cultural values, they bring their education values. And as I begin to look at direct selling and its influence on politics, which is very, very vast, I look at the Amway's DeVos family, who have been one of the largest soft money donors to the Republican Party for years. Just recently, Melaleuca owner Frank Vandersloot just gave $1 million to the Romney Super PAC. We've just recently found in a breaking story here on air 2 weeks ago, wouldn't be last week, but 2 weeks ago, that the New Skin founders Lund, Blake, and Tillotson have also been giving a lot of money to the Romney Super PAC, which is absolutely fine with me. You have the money, you have the power, you can give it to whomever you want. And it's interesting because as I talk to some of the direct selling leaders, they say, well, these people are good for business. That may be true. However, you don't just get them because they're good for business. Whoever we put in office, be it Obama, be it Santorum, Gingrich, Romney, whomever, they bring everything else with them. And that's where you really take a aerial view. You take the 5,000-foot view of what's really going on and what's really the impact of having that person and whomever they bring with them. Because understand, whoever they bring with them is going to have influence on them. So Direct Selling Lives on Air asked the question of our associations on Friday. That would be the MLMIA, Multi-Level Marketing International Association, the DSWA, the Direct Selling Women's Alliance, and the DSA, Direct Selling Association. With 85% of all women, of all direct sellers being women, what do you think? I'm just going to read to you the actual question that we asked. It went on to say, On Air has been asked daily, On Air Daily with Keeper has been asked if the associations have any comment on the contraceptive debate, because it's more than just about contraception. It's about a woman's right to choose. We are witnessing across the U.S. women taking offense by some politicians running for president about the current debate on contraceptives or women's health care. As you are the association leaders of our industry made up mostly of women, distributors and customers, I have been asked by women, have the associations made a comment about the contraceptive or women's health care? Because as I said, this is more than just about direct selling in their business. It's about their entire life and how it impacts their entire life. It has been estimated that 90% of all women in the U.S., regardless of race, religion, or values, have used a pill for birth control, ovarian cancer, or breast cancer, hormonal control, and many other reasons related to supporting women's health. With 84% of direct sellers being women and more direct selling companies and owners openly making their political views known, such as Amway's DeVos family, Frank Vandersloot, Donald Trump's Trump Network, and New Skin, candidates who are engaged in the current debate, these are some candidates, they're supporting candidates who are engaged in the debate and agree that the candidates they support are in full support of the Blunt Amendment. I don't know if that made any sense, but know that they are in support of the Blunt Amendment that wants to stop women from having access to birth control. And so it's absolutely crazy. These Blunt Amendment allows employers to choose based on just moral grounds, whatever grounds they can think of. They can stop women from getting health insurance. They can just shut them down. And the same thing also applies to men. So what is your thought on this? Because the majority of distributors are women, and it's more than just about women in direct selling. It's more than just about their business. The average distributor, if I remember correctly, the DSA, Direct Selling Association, says makes less than $300 a month. So a lot of these women that we're talking about, 85%, need things, not the pill just for birth control, but as I said, for ovarian cancer, breast cancer control, hormonal issues that are constantly, that the women are constantly dealing with every day. What is your thought on this? Because I am now being asked, are the associations making any comment? Well, yeah, a few did, a couple did. The MLMIA did and the DSWA did. We have yet to hear from the DSA, which actually has a political action committee. You would think that they would be certainly one to jump in on this conversation because they are engaged in politics. The comments of the DSA, DSWA, and the MLMIA, I'm going to share with you in just a few moments, but in some ways, I find it shocking. Who said what and who didn't, and for what reasons? On Air and Direct Selling Live have been asking the associations about women in the boardroom. Why is it that 85% of the women in the field are represented by less than 25% in the boardrooms? What is the issue? What do you think about gays and lesbians in direct selling, which actually plays into this story because of what Avon recently did? What do you think about these things? What do you think about all the women being represented in direct selling, and yet some of the politicians are trying to strip away women's rights? What are your feelings? You have to have a comment, particularly if you're the DSWA. When I come back, I'm going to read the comments that they sent and just kind of go over my thoughts about it when I come back.
No family can survive on 2 incomes anymore, let alone 1. If you are supplementing your family's income working from home, then tune into The Cash Flow Show, Direct Sales Radio. Host Deb Bixler brings you sales tips, lead generation systems, and best business practices that guarantee direct sales success. Whether you're looking for a little extra cash or a career change, The Cash Flow Show, Direct Sales Radio will give you proven systems that will work in your home business. The Cash Flow Show, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on World Talk Radio Variety.
Welcome back. Okay, we asked the question of the associations, the MLMIA, the DSWA, and the DSA, with 85% of all women being distributors. What are your feelings about those company owners? The Voss family of Amway, Frank Vandersloot of Melaleuca, Lund, Rooney, and Tillotson of New Skin, and now For Life, backing politicians who are for the Blunt Amendment. This industry is run by women. I mean, the industry is built on such beautiful shoulders of absolutely beautiful women. It has been for over 100 years. And as we begin to see here in the United States, attacks on women's health issues, trying to make them out to be more about religion, which I don't think it is, the question has to be asked, particularly if you are the DSWA, the Association for Women, Direct Selling Women's Alliance. What is your thought about this? Because whether you like it or not, you all are celebrities. You all are associations, and by extension, that puts you into the limelight. That means these questions can be and should be asked of you. And it appears as though I am the only one willing to ask. And it kind of puts me in the same position of a A.L. Williams, who wrote in his really, really great book, All You Can Do Is All You Can Do. It's an awkward feeling to know that you are the most hated man in all of direct selling. Well, in some ways, I kind of get the same feeling. But I ask the questions because these are so important. These are so important to our culture. It's so important as it relates to who we are, because women are so incredibly important, not just as distributors, but they are the main thrust of our customers. They are the main thrust of our prospects, and what happens to them, how life impacts them, is critical to how it impacts our business. Not long ago, Betsy DeVos of Amway, who finally admitted after years of denying it, finally came out and said, yes, we are the largest soft money donor to the Republican Party. When we put in all this money, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, when we put in all this money, we expect something in return. We expect the values of our family to be the values of America. Okay, this is what really started to get me looking at direct selling's influence on politics, because it goes more than just beyond being a distributor. Not long ago, we saw the Susan G. Komen Foundation come under fire for their position on Planned Parenthood, and it really just kind of pushed them, and it really just put them in a bad spot, which, to direct selling's advantage or fortune, it was a good thing, because it actually thrust Avon into probably the leader position when it comes to breast cancer and breast cancer walks. And Avon has been absolutely spectacular. One of the things that they did towards the end of 2011 is they became the first and only direct selling company to ever be awarded by the Human Rights Foundation Best Place to Work for Lesbians, Gays, Bisexuals, and Transgenders. These are game changer things, but what it does is it tells you where Avon is. It tells you what they're thinking. It tells you what they understand the world today to be about. And it's about total inclusion. It's about giving people the ability to create and lead their own path. And Avon, this is absolutely spectacular on their part. And hopefully more and more direct selling companies will follow suit. So as I said, we asked the DSWA and DSA and MLMIA what their thoughts were. I'm going to share with you the thoughts of these associations because I did put in the email. We're going to share your response on today's show here on Air. So this is not going to be anything out of the blue for any of them. We ask these questions because we feel we need to know and you need to know. This is what MLMIA founder Doris Wood had to say. And Doris has been around direct selling for 53 years. She's just one of my dearest friends. I absolutely love her. In fact, even the women over at DSWA, I absolutely love them to death. We don't always agree, but I absolutely love them to death. They are so needed in the capacity that they are. I would like to see them do more. Doris went on to say, I feel the government should stay out of everyone's business and let people and the insurance companies they choose decide according to their personal and religious beliefs. I don't believe that it is what and I don't believe that that is what associations of our type are here for, to check and see how people go about their personal lives. We are here to help them, our members, with business-related problems and help them in their growth. And why is it that anyone in our business relationship should know if we choose to have more children or not, which I completely agree. It is your choice between you and your insurance company and your doctor. This is not an association opinion, however. It is mine, and unless it is law, I would not submit it to our members, or I might tell them to shove it and quit. It is no one's business except the female individual and their families. Hear, hear. Kudos for you, Doris, for stepping into this. I think it's a really great place for you and the MLMIA to be. Now I'm going to share with you the response of Nikki Kihohoho, co-founder of the DSWA. They're in their, I believe, their 11th year, doing absolutely fantastic. Apparently 2012 is shaping up to be a great year for them. There are some things coming forward, and hopefully we'll be able to share them with you in the very near future, if they allow us to, about what's going on. But it looks like 2012 is going to be a complete turnaround for them from 2011, which we're absolutely happy to see. As related to the question that we posed to them about direct sellers, direct selling companies, direct selling owners, supporting politicians that are, for the Blunt Amendment, are beginning to intimate that they are more in line with what religion says as opposed to giving a woman their right to choose. This is what Nikki Kihoho had to say. Dear Keeper, we have chosen not to be involved in political policies that are not related specifically to the direct selling profession. We are continuing to put our resources and time toward promoting direct selling, the direct selling profession, and providing education to support success of the independent distributor. Well, I agree with her to a point, except the question was, and the one that she dodged was, direct selling owners are now supporting politicians that are supporting the Blunt Amendment. So many women need to have that amendment go away for any number of reasons. And yet we have Amway's DeVos family, Frank Vandersloot of Melaleuca, giving millions of dollars. So are the founders of New Skin, Lund, Rooney, and Orani and Tillotson, and they did theirs through a shell corporation, and now For Life's owner. This is directly related to direct selling. There's no other way to look at it. So the question was, with owners in direct selling now doing this, do you have a comment? But to say that we are not going to get involved in politics that are not directly related to direct selling profession, I have to disagree with you. Once again, this is a direct selling issue. So, is it the issue that, and it very well could be for the DSA as well, certainly not for the MLMIA, if the opportunity came to do business with them, even though they are completely against 90% of all women and 84%, the majority of women in direct selling, is it more about getting the business with them or more about standing for what's right for women? I guess that's a decision that you're going to need to make, and apparently you've already made it. I will say this. In the past, I have asked the DSWA to comment on a number of hot button issues. And in the past, they have declined to comment. On this one, though, they stepped up. They really did. And I have to say, I am extremely proud to say that Nikki gave us a comment, because it gets them involved in the conversation. It gets them engaged, and it's something that we really need. Whether they agree with the question, whether their views are very different than everyone else's, at least they're involved. No longer sitting on the fence is an option for anyone. And I'm extremely proud that at least she commented. Do I agree with it? No, because the question is directly related to direct selling. But apparently, there are other factors involved here that are causing them to take this position. When I come back, a special comment on stepping into the lion's den. Stepping into a den of lions, knowing that you have to figure out a way to survive, knowing that they are nipping at your heels. And what do you do about it? It makes you vulnerable. It exposes you, which is particularly what this topic is all about. Who has the ability and the courage to do it? Apparently, not many. When I come back.
When my mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Welcome back to On Air. Now, a special comment about stepping into the lion's den or stepping into a spot where you know it's going to be extremely challenging, one that you're going to take a lot of flack for, one that's going to cause a lot of blowback coming your way. But ultimately, you know it's the thing to do. I call that stepping into the lion's den. The reason why I do this, I recently saw a picture of an older gentleman looking out of a window with his hands calmly behind his back, looking up to the sky, or in this instance it appeared as though he was looking up into the heavens, since it seemed to be more of a religious picture than anything else. And he's surrounded by lions, and they are just ready to pounce. And yet he's just so calm, so serene. I mean, he's got it down. He's got this situation on lock. He's basically saying, I don't care. I got this. I got this because I know it's the thing to do. It's the place to be. As I looked at the MLMIA's comments and the DSWA's comments, I got to thinking about this picture. Because as I began to challenge our associations, I'm one for challenging the status quo. I'm sure all of you know that by now. I will challenge the status quo because the status quo always needs challenging. Complacency is probably the greatest enemy of mankind. And what happens is when the status quo remains, only those people who speak the loudest are the ones who lead. I understand the fear of stepping into the lion's den, particularly as it relates to the DSWA, the Association for Women. They've got women all over in many different countries, many different religions, many different points of view. And the fear probably of closing off a lot of those people and losing a lot of members probably is what more than anything prompts them to take the positions that they do. However, I tend to think that when it relates to women, there's only one voice in direct selling, and that is the DSWA. And so for me, I continue to challenge, but I understand it. Avon did something last year that really might not seem like a big deal. You might say, well, it's the obvious thing to do. Avon, the company for women, that's their slogan. They were recently awarded the best place to work for lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgenders. I mean, they went heavy and hard for that. It's because they understood the moment. They understood what was at stake. They really understand their place, not only in direct selling history, but in history as a whole, in general. I don't think very many people really understand their place in history, the opportunity to seize the moment. Avon did it. And you might think, well, as I said, that is the natural thing for them to do. But why did it take all this time for one direct selling company to come to that conclusion? Avon has been working on this for quite some time. Excuse me, my sheet is slipping here. Avon's been working on this for quite some time. And I'm extremely proud of them, as we all should be. Because what this says, for those who lead in direct selling, it says a lot about themselves. It says a lot about their culture. It says a lot about their tolerance. It says a lot about their views on life and people. It wasn't until 1920 when women had the right to vote. I mean, that's almost 20 years ago. 90 years ago, women finally had the right to vote. In 1887, the blacks, primarily, black men, slaves, primarily had the right to vote. But it wasn't until 1965, when Johnson passed the 15th Amendment, that they were really encouraged to vote. Because even though they got the right in 1887, there were so much discouragement brought their way. They had poll taxes, they had literacy tests, they had all sorts of things on top of intimidation. So it wasn't until 1965 when President Johnson passed the 15th Amendment. Why is all this important? It's important because as we look at what's going on politically, we're starting to see freedoms be eroded. Freedoms of distributors, who, if you pull back the veil of them being a distributor, these are the things that impact their life. As I said in one of the earlier segments, the average distributor makes less than $300 a month. So all the things that are going on and all the attacks that are going on really impact women in a major way. The contraceptive issue is a smokescreen for other issues, I think. It sets up a lot of other issues that for women and just minorities in general that are going to be under attack. And yet, it seems to me our associations are afraid to step into the lion's den. At least the MLMIA and the DSWA. The Direct Selling Association, the DSA, they're already in it. They already have a political action committee. We've already shared with you the political action committee, the Direct Selling Association does not want distributors to know about it because it's for companies only. Stepping into the lion's den is not an easy place to be. Trust me. Creating a media company and direct selling for me was stepping into the lion's den in a major way with absolutely no money, no funding, no help, no anyone. And I'm slowly building my way up. Because the lion's den, for anyone in direct selling media, that's the den of Video Plus. The absolute giant in direct selling media. And certainly well deserved. But it's stepping into the lion's den. I have no problem stepping into the lion's den. I wish the MLMIA, and particularly, especially the DSWA, would step into the lion's den, because to me, whether you like it or not, you're in it. That's it for today's show. Glad you could join me. We'll see you next time here on Air. Oh, by the way, if you have a comment, please shoot us an email at onair@Direct Selling Live. Looking forward to seeing you. Also look forward to the upcoming Direct Selling Live survey about politics and its influence, or direct selling's politics and its influence, direct selling's influence on politics. Have a great day.